So that means I'm leaving and I can't take any of my sewing room with me. Today, my friends, is an exciting day. Why is it an exciting day? Well, we are going to make, or attempt, this vintage 1940s reproduction pattern. I think the official title is a Pinafore sports dress. I don't know what a sports dress is, but that's what we're gonna make. Originally it was 45 cents, if you can believe it. This baby is from, there is not a brand on here, it just says made in USA. But basically I got this from Lady Marlowe Patterns. She's a reproductor? She does reproductions of vintage patterns. This is a really cool 1940s one. I just thought it was really cute and I wanted to check it out. So, a couple things to note about this pattern. I don't know if you can see it, but basically it's a faux wrap dress, which means that it has like a built-in belt, I think, and there's no zipper or anything. The way that you get into it is there's a back is kind of open, and then there's a button at the back of the neck. So there's a little bit of a peep kind of feature going on in the back. I got the biggest size, and it wasn't great for my self-esteem. It's the last size before I guess they stopped making them. So this is the size 20 because I have such a large bust. I have to kind of fit everything else to that bust. I'm a 38-inch bust, 30-inch waist, and 40-inch hip. This pattern is 38-inch bust, 32-inch waist, so we're gonna have to nip that in a little bit, and then 41-inch hip. I don't think it really matters because I don't think this is supposed to be super fitted, but we'll figure it out. So for fabric, I picked up this really gorgeous linen blend. I think it's linen lyocell and rayon. It's quite thin, so I also picked up, well, I've had this around, just like a really normal, soft white cotton bed sheet that I thrifted from Goodwill, I think. This is gonna be the lining, and then this will be obviously the outside shell. Okay, so let's see what this bad boy comes with. Please ignore struggles. So we've got, oh wow, quite a very long instruction sheet. It looks like it has how to lay your cuts on the fabric to get like the maximum use out of the fabric, so that's really nice. The pattern pieces themselves, they're on a really thick, it's thicker than butcher paper. I'd say like, I don't know, poster paper. So it's really nice. You don't feel like you're gonna rip or tear them. And because she sends you size specific, like mine is just the 38-inch bust pattern. So I don't have to worry about if I wanna change it later, do I don't wanna cut it out, do I wanna trace it with a tracing mill. You don't have to deal with that with this. This is just your size that you picked out. Okay, she is a big girl, is this dress. So I've got all of the pieces cut out, just of the lining layer, because the great thing about doing the lining out of a bed sheet is that you can do a mock-up first, and then if everything goes well with the mock-up on low stakes fabric, you can make the rest of the dress. So here we've got our 4 skirt panels. It's gonna be pretty close to a circle skirt. The 2 ties and then the belt that gets attached to the dress, and then the front piece and then the 2 back pieces. It is Monday night, day 3, and I'm sorry I look like a bit of a bog witch. We've been hurricane prepping all day, and this is the first time I'm getting all day to sneak off and sew a little bit. So we're ready, we're doing this. I've got all the pieces cut out, and now I'm gonna start putting the mock-up together, the lining layer. I'm gonna do that with big old basting stitches, the highest setting on my machine, and then make some adjustments to the pattern, try it on inside out, see how it fits, and then once I'm happy with where it's at, I'll take all those big basting stitches out and we'll start assembling with the really nice polka dot fabric. So that's where we're at right now. And I'm so tired. Something I just want to point out before I get started is this pattern is really not for super beginner sewers. I didn't realize this before I bought the pattern, but apparently vintage patterns, or maybe it's just this one, are a bit confusing, and they kind of assume a certain level of expertise that, you know, maybe some people don't have. Like these, it's not really numbered. I think the numbering starts at 3 down here for some reason, and the diagrams can get a bit confusing, and if you don't know, you know, what a lapped seam is, or any of kind of the assembling that they assume that you do know how to do, this can get a bit tricky. So I'm gonna do my best to walk you through it. You know, if you wanna recreate this, hopefully this video can help, but I would not recommend just striking out on your own. You know, maybe try something a little easier before you kind of latch onto this one. Progress here. This is a prime example of why you always do a mock-up. It looks okay from the front. I don't know what on earth tiny neck person they made this pattern for, but I feel like I'm being choked. So this is gonna have to come down at least 2 inches, probably about here, and then this is gonna have to get widened about 1 inch on either side, just so I can freaking move my neck. The darts on the front and the side are kind of an issue, so I don't know if you can see, but there's darts here. This armhole is gonna need some work, so I'm gonna have to take these in, gosh, like a lot, like a good two inches maybe on either side of that dart. So that's kind of rough. There's a lot of room though in the hole. I feel like it's long enough, but this is definitely gonna have to come out. These front darts are okay. I actually, you know what, I like the way that they fit. The issue with these guys is, so the apex of my bust is here, and front princess darts like this should always end about 1 inch below the apex, so you don't end up with like that weird, like, look, it's my nipple. So these are gonna have to come down. It's kind of hard to tell with this pattern what's going on with the back, because the back, you know, doesn't really zip or anything anyway. So we'll just have to trust that the back is okay until we get a little bit further into this. But for now, we'll start with the darts, taking in this a little bit, and then doing the neck. So unfortunately for me and all of my projects right now, Hurricane Laura is headed towards me and is projected to be a category 3. So that means I'm leaving and I can't take any of my sewing room with me, unfortunately. Finally made it back home. Turns out that we didn't get hit by a hurricane, thank God, and it kind of swerved away from our house at the last minute. So we're doing okay, and now I have a lot of sewing to catch up on because I've lost about 3 days on this project, so that kind of sucks. But Tinsel seems to be enjoying herself, so that's okay. Here's where we're at right now. This mannequin obviously does not fit me. It's a couple inches too small in the bust and waist, but that's the problem because I've got the mock-up on the mannequin that does not fit me, and it is struggling to close in the back here. So in the pattern, there's about 1.5 inches, maybe 2 inches here that normally, because this thing is unlined, normally this would act as like the hem for this bed. However, we may be able to let that out, and if we redraw these lines to give my neck a little bit more room, we may be able to extend this down and out a little bit. So that's where we're at right now. This is much better. Just folding over and giving myself 3/4 of an inch more on either side, so an extra 1.5 inches, really helped. Modification after modification. I took the shoulders up, I took them up again, and we are still getting gaping. It just won't freaking go together. I'm just so tired. I just want the mock-up to be done. I have no idea what day it is, but we are deep in the trenches here, folks, and I'm about to lose it. I've just pinned the back skirt panels to the front skirt, and I'm about to get ready to sew them together when I noticed they don't freaking line up. Look at this shit. Excuse my language. The back panel is about 1/2 inch on either side longer than the front freaking panel on the skirt. And I know this because I've lined my stupid notches up so they should match up, and they do not match up, and I cannot figure out why they match up. Y'all, this pattern makes no sense. At this point, I've literally just abandoned the instructions and I am flying by the seat of my pants because Okay, time for a little progress update. So I have sewn both of the skirts together. We finished both of the bodice layers. We've got the lining all sewn together and the outer layer all sewn together. The darts are sewn in and ironed down. Seams are pressed open and clipped down to 1/4 inch. The next step in assembling a lined bodice is to put the two pieces together, right sides together, and stitch around the armholes, both armholes, and wherever you want to have understitching to have seams lay flat. So since my back is not gonna have a zipper there, I wanna sew along the back up and along the neckline and back down. And then before we can go to flipping it right sides out again, we have to do a technique called understitching the seams, which basically is taking the seam allowance and stitching it down to the lining layer so that you can't see it from the front, but it helps everything lay a little bit more flat. This project is a really good reminder for anyone who is thinking of sewing something on a time crunch. Everything takes about 10 times longer than you think it's gonna take, and I would leave yourself a lot more of a buffer than I left me, because now I think I am a week behind on this. I've put about, 50 or 60 hours in so far, and I still have to, do the bodice and assemble the skirt and all the stuff, so it sucks. Okay, so I finished the understitching, and I just wanted to show you what it looks like before I turn everything inside out. This is the front bodice piece, and these are the two backs. You'll notice I didn't sew the side seams together. I had to unpick them because it made it impossible to get to understitching all of the other areas if these things were closed. So if you do this yourself, do yourself a favor, don't do what I did. Don't sew them together first and have to unpick them later. Just leave them unsewn. And you can see the side seams and the bottom are all unsewn, but everything else is sewn together. So I sewed the armholes and the neck holes, and then I went and understitched them. So understitching, I just want to show you what it looks like. You notice how the seam allowance seems like it's kind of bending inwards, and that is because you see this second line of stitching right here? That is where I've understitched from the right sides together. I just sewed the seam allowance to the lining piece so that it would lay, it automatically wants to lay inward. It doesn't want to go out. And this will prevent the lining layer from popping out of the front when you flipped everything inside out. It'll lay nice and flat and crisp. So the bodice is done. Praise Jeebus. Took way too long. So now all I have to do is literally assemble the final pieces. I have to attach the bodice to the belt piece and then the skirt to the belt piece and hem everything. And then I am done. The belt is now sewn to the bodice. I basically sewed the front of the belt to the right side, the fashion fabric, and then the lining to the lining. And then what I'll do is do that the same way to the skirt and then seal it up so that you can't see any of these seams by doing a top stitch around the entirety of the belt to kind of help it lay a little bit flatter. Ugh. It is 2 in the morning on Saturday. I've been making this thing for almost 3 weeks now. And we are so close. I'm so close. I'm so ready to be done with this thing. So I'm gonna stay up and I'm gonna freaking finish what I need to finish because I can't do it anymore. So come with me. Here's where we are. The skirt has been attached to the belt on both sides. Right now it's open. You can kind of go up through the bottom of the bodice through the skirt. So my very last step, besides adding like the closures, the hook and eye closures on the back of this thing, my very last step is I'm just gonna top stitch all the way around the belt to seal this off. And then I'm gonna leave it to hang overnight so that when I come to kind of hem it tomorrow morning, it's more even and it's kind of stretched out the way it wants to. So we are home frickin' stretch, baby. Here's the thing, don't be me and cut too much off the bottom of your dress because you are stupid and can't measure properly. I tried the dress on and it was all done and it looked great, and then I realized I didn't like the length. I thought it was a little bit too long and it felt kind of matronly. In my head, I'm like, okay, in all of the extant garments I've seen, the dresses were cut just below the knee, so I need to cut my dress just below the knee. Well, I asked my lovely husband to mark my dress at the knee because I didn't want to bend over and mess the marking up, and the poor guy went above the knee by like maybe an inch. And then I waited a few days between when I had him mark it and when I actually was able to go back through and cut everything. And yeah, I forgot that it was above the knee. I thought I had told him below the knee. So I'm like, oh, blind faith, blah, blah, blah. I need to get this done. So I just start cutting. And then I try the dress on and it is above my knee. And it is, I mean, it's nice if you're going for Forever 21, but I'm not. I'm going for vintage, which is much longer than that. So now I have a dress that is too short and I'm struggling to think of ways to fix that. So here's my idea. After a lot of panicking and a lot of Googling, the only thing I can possibly think of is to add a ruffle to the bottom of the hem to make it longer. Essentially, I'm adding back what I cut off, which the irony of that does not escape me, by the way. What do I do with this?